right, I think we've got everybody in now. So if we can go ahead and get started there. Again, thank you again for everybody joining us, giving us a little bit of your time to be a part of this and be a part of the coalition that we're looking at, or at least get understanding for that. So want to start with, let's see, let's get the PowerPoint moving. There we go, got that. Let's just do a little bit of introductions of us here too. So my name is Tim Callgreen, at the Indiana Bar Foundation, Director of Civic Education. And so we're excited to kind of lead this with everybody here too. We've got a couple others from the Bar Foundation that want to say hello and showcase themselves. So let me start with kind of the top of you know, in charge of me here, Chuck. If you want to kind of showcase, say hello.
Sure. So Chuck Dunlap, I know many of you, it's great to see you, friends and colleagues. And we're really excited about sort of launching this endeavor together with you. So our plan is to sort of lay out what we have as a vision and a follow-up from the Civics Summit that we recently had, and have a conversation with you and sort of kick off some of these planning and work and all the things that we want to do together going forward. So thank you again, and you'll hear, whether you want to or not, you'll hear a little bit more from me later. So I will tag Dr. Hammock if you want to just introduce yourself as well and your role.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Hammock, and I am the superintendent of Beech Grove City Schools. I also am honored to serve as a board member for the Bar Foundation, and just have a passion for civics education as well as advancing civic health just for our communities, and look forward to the way in which this coalition will add value to all of that. So thank you all for being here.
And Kim?
Great, thanks, Tim. I'm Kim Berry, the Director of Development for the Bar Foundation. It's great to be with you all today, and I'll look forward to highlighting some of our membership benefits a little later on. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks. That's a little bit about us. Looking around the room, we've got more than 50 people in this Zoom, so we are excited to have this whole group together to start talking about civics and engagement that way. Just a real quick background of a little bit how we got here. It's really been in the process for a long time, and going as far back as 2019, the Indiana Civic Health Index wanted to create task force and an organization to keep moving and advancing civic education and understanding our communities and all the different ways to kind of keep putting civics in our forefront. So we can track this back, you know, to at least 2019. It brought forward the 2020 Civic Education Task Force, which was a great, even through the challenges of 2020, brought together a great group of people to really look at how we can keep civics engaged and bring together this community. And now we're just trying to move that ball forward with this. And now we've got this version of it to try to be able to really harness this communal property and all of our talents together to keep pushing what is good quality civics and a good community that we can have there too. So that's that quick background there too. Let's take a look at where we are in the current iteration of our Civics Coalition. Chuck, do you want to talk about this?
Sure. So again, this has been evolving for a while now, and many of you have been along with us on this journey through various civic health indices and other things, summits, etc. So, but where we are now, and for many of you that were at the civic, our summit, that was the launching really of gathering communities of interest together around civics and creating this new coalition. And so going forward, as this slide says, you know, we're dedicated to improving Indiana's civic knowledge, skills, and attitudes through the means of education, advocacy, and state initiatives. From an administrative standpoint, the Bar Foundation is prepared and supporting this with administrative pieces, so we can help to coordinate activities, help coordinate committees, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute too. So from a structural standpoint, our vision of the coalition is sort of underneath the Bar Foundation as an administrating agency, but really it's the coalition members and the coalition committees and the activities of you all as members and participants that we really want to engage with and provide direction for. Again, some of the other sort of fundamental tenets of this, I think none of this will be too much of a surprise, but nonpartisan and collaborative are really ethics within this organization, within this structure that we really want to make sure that we build up and hold up for everybody. And we have seen, working with many of you individually and somewhat collectively, the power of working together. A lot of the initiatives that we were able to do, we were a part of. We weren't, maybe we were helping to drive it, but doing more together is not just it's not a cliche, but it really is effective. And that's what one of the things that we really want this coalition to do is, and not just us working with individuals, but we'll see a little bit in a couple minutes, individuals working with other individual organizations, either potentially within the coalition or even outside the coalition, if there are other opportunities for partnership and collaboration. And so we really, those are the sort of the main themes and concepts that we really want this coalition to be able to bring to bear and to make it an enduring and a long-lasting collective and group effort. And so we intend to have annual convenings like we did earlier this year with our Civic Summit. We intend to have committees that do some work, and we'll talk a little bit more about where we're wanting to start right now. Our ideas are just that. They're a start, they're a framework. We really want to take some of the leadership and ideas from the members of this group and help us pull this together in a way that makes sense for all of us. So that's sort of the big broad strokes version. If you want to click to the next slide. So these are some of the early adopters, if you will. Some of the, again, many of you on this Zoom. Following up from the summit, we, as many of you know, we had, tell us, are you interested in participating and at what level? We have, and Kim's going to talk a little bit more about this too, but we have various opportunity levels. Some of them come with some financial support, some of the, but that's not a requirement. If you want to be a part of this coalition as a member, and many of the folks are listed here that we have sort of signed onto the commitment, let us know. There is no cost to be a member of this coalition, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. We do have opportunities, because one of the things that we're doing also is, as many of you know, the Civic Health Index was something that we worked on. We're putting some of those tools and some of those resources that we have developed and sort of putting them under the coalition banner and collectively supporting those efforts through this group as well. So those are some of the things I want to thank specifically. Again, Civics Now, many of you know, there's sort of the national coalition, and we've been involved with them, and they were very supportive of our summit and also supporting this statewide coalition. Church, Hittle, and Antrim, specifically, law firm in Noblesville and really has a statewide presence. They've been huge supporters, and again, they've signed on to support this at that level. Indiana University Center Representative Government, many of you may have worked with them, and I'm sure several are on this call. As well as the Indiana Citizen Education Foundation, and I know Bill's on here. I saw him here earlier. So those are some of the original sort of founding members, sustaining members, and then some additional members that we have supporting this. Business for America, we're really excited about our relationship with the business community and engaging and involving them in this work as well. And Business for America, we're working with them as sort of a partnership to help to do that. Community Engaged Alliance, Vagary, Green Curve, Biddle, and Grief. I got to get used to all the new names. I'm so old now that law firm names have changed a few times, so I got to get up to speed. But our good friends at the State Bar Association, I see Amy and Joe on the call, and just again, thank you for your early and continued support. And Krieg DeVault, we really want this list to grow, and there are individual opportunities as well. So we'll go through, and actually, I'm going to turn it over to Kim, who's going to sort of walk us through a little bit about how we have sort of started this structure of, the coalition and how we're structuring participation. So Kim, I'll turn it over to you at this point.
Great, Chuck. Thank you. And I just want to reiterate Chuck's comments. Thank you so much to all of our founding members, partners, and sponsors. We're really grateful for your support. And we're delighted today to provide the opportunity for you to engage with us through membership in the Civics Coalition. And there are a couple of ways that you can join. As you see on the screen, you can join us as an individual, or your organization can join. And if your organization joins, please designate someone within your organization to be the lead person. Additional members are welcome as well from your company. And as Chuck said, there is no cost to become a member in order to participate in the committees and the work. So again, there's no cost. However, we do have some sponsorship levels. We've got 3 organizational levels with corresponding benefits designed to serve you. And you can see the slide on the screen listing the various benefits, and they increase based on your financial commitment. If you're interested in having a conversation about this, I would love to chat more with you, and you can drop me a note in the chat. My contact information is also going to be on the screen later on. And then Tim, if you want to move on to the JOT form, if you haven't previously signed up to join, this is the first step, and we've got a link that's going to be dropped in the chat where you can fill this out, indicate if you're joining as an individual, if you would like us to reach out to you, or if you're joining on behalf of your organization. And we'll provide this later on as well if you're not quite certain yet what level you want to participate in. And finally, there's always an opportunity to join as an individual, participate in the committee work, get to know us a little better, and then grow into having your organization get more involved. So thank you. And I think I'm going to turn it now back over to Tim.
Actually, I think I was going to take this one.
Okay, Chuck.
So this is, and some of you have heard this before from me, so this is my visual representation of our vision for the coalition and how we envision this working going forward. So the idea is, you know, the Venn diagram approach, really the center part is where we envision the coalition working. We have different organizations, different individuals coming to civics engagement, civic education, all with different perspectives. But the commonality and the common purpose is where we want to engage as a coalition. So the collective work that we do together within the framework that we're going to have as far as a few committees, things like that, that's where we want to operate. But we also acknowledge and that there are other opportunities and other things that hopefully will come as a benefit of this collaboration. And the second area of overlap is not necessarily where everybody is, but maybe there's other organizations within this coalition that you've identified as another organization that you want to work with on a partnership project within the realm of civics or whatever makes sense for you and your organization or individually. And this will hopefully help us to facilitate that. We're going to be having opportunities to get to know each other a bit more, what people do, what people are interested in, what people's missions are. And this is an area that we think that the coalition will also add value to everybody and everybody's mission and work, even if it's not specifically, you know, everybody in the coalition doing this or moving forward in a specific goal. And then, of course, there's the third area where your organization is able to do and continue to do whatever it is that might not necessarily fit within the scope of those other 2 areas of operation. So this is just an area to come together for commonality and work towards collective groups, collective goals of the group in order to promote and advance civics in civic education, civic engagement, and all of those areas. But we acknowledge that these other areas exist as well. And so there may be opportunities for your organization to do something within any of these 3 areas. And we hope that the coalition adds value to all of them, quite honestly, and it expands your network, expands our collective effort and our skills in advocating and promoting civics in Indiana. And we've accomplished some great things, but at least I think our vision at the Bar Foundation was if we have this collective power, there's frankly a lot of organizations and people that care about this. And we want to be able to harness that in a way to move all of this forward to help Indiana and help our country and help everybody sort of advance the cause of civic education. So there's a role and a lane for the coalition, and it has different facets to it, but there's also hopefully supportive work that's happening outside of the coalition as well. So that's what I wanted to sort of address there. Next slide.
Yeah.
So I'm going to turn over to Tim for this to talk a little bit more about how we've initially created the structure for this to start with. And again, all of these are based on an initial idea, and we fully intend and hope that they will be fine-tuned, developed, and evolve with the help and discussion of all of the members of this coalition, many represented here and hopefully more to come. So Tim, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, as Chuck said, this is our starting point, and this is just some of the things that we're thinking about of how we can group some thoughts together and harness our collective power and push together to keep promoting civics in the state. And so we see it at this point to start with civic education, civic health, and civic advocacy, and working through these different broad-ranged pieces to put this together to be able to be, again, push and advance civics within the state. This is not exclusive. This is not saying we can't add others. This is not can't be redefined. Again, just a starting point that we're coming up with. For example, we've talked about internally, do we maybe research and best practices around civics and in some sort of engagement and different things. Those are things that we are open to as we continue the discussions and the work and the togetherness of this coalition. We can put together and try to advance what we are collectively looking for. A starting point as we're looking at this. But how did we come up with these? It's coming back to that Civic Education Task Force from 2020. These were the recommendations that came out of that task force report. And so we're using that as our starting roadmap of things that can advance civics that have already been identified as a way to advance civics within the state and our community that way. So that's what we're starting with. That's how we kind of came up with that. So if we look at our starting three of things that the Civic Education Committee could do, again, starting points, possibilities, things that we can start with, things to look at, how to approach civic education, build practices, build teacher help, different courses, both youth and adult education, different things that can come from that. So again, it's our starting roadmap that we're getting using the task force as a starting piece and just kind of keep that going. So you've got that, you've got our health, civic health, how to, and we see this as a broad community piece as well there too, how to work with communities and how to engage youth in their community, how to promote happiness within our community. How do we keep growing to make us civically healthy as we keep looking at different things? The Civic Education Task Force take a look at that. And then as referenced earlier, we have our Civic Health Index that is published every other year as well. That's going to be some guiding roadmaps and pieces that way. So we'll be able to use that as an idea to push things forward.
And if I could just add a couple quick points on that, we have sort of, and really in that membership slide or the additional ways to participate, we have the coalition having some initial sort of deliverables, if you will, or resources to be developed. One of the things that, and we've mentioned it before, but the Civic Health Index, we typically have done through the Bar Foundation and other partners, many of which are on this call, every other year. This will be the year 2023 that we do another iteration of that. We're trying to essentially take that and make that a product, if you will, of this coalition. So that's an area to help contribute and support, but it's also providing a resource to Indiana that in continuing that. Another one that we're developing, in fact, we just had a call on it this morning, is the creation of a resource on state and local government. It's an area that the Chamber of Commerce, you may have seen some of that before. This is Your Indiana Government. They had a publication that they put out, and there's not a lot of options out there, but they did a very nice job of it, but they discontinued it. So we're having conversations about bringing that back as a resource for the state of Indiana, but also focused on the new 6th grade course and others that could use that within an educational setting, and rebranding that essentially as a resource that is brought to you from and by this new coalition. And of course, the annual convening, those will be things that we kind of work around. And in the meantime, these committees will continue to do their work. The other thing I want to acknowledge here to this group, and by the way, I'm sure we're generating a lot of questions and everything, so we do have time at the end as well, but feel free to continue to put them in the chat as well. There is another group, and for those of you that might have remembered the legislation that passed a few years ago, House Bill 1384, it created the new middle school civics class and the new standards, which by the way, were official yesterday, I believe, from the Department of, or the Board of Education. So we'll be moving forward with that. But one of the other entities that was created was a civics commission that was chaired by and is chaired by the lieutenant governor. Our hope and our plan to integrate with that existing entity is to have our coalition do a lot of the work and bring it to the commission as a way to put it into for those things that need, for example, policy work or recommendations to the General Assembly or policy recommendations to the DOE or others that might be involved with this. There will be an avenue to tee that work into the state commission leading up to recommendations and hopefully legislative or other action is necessary. So we're working with the existing entities on the ground that exist, and we're putting this in as a way to, I think, really make a full spectrum of the ideas that can be harnessed and generated collectively, and hopefully see those being put into action through either policy or however that it needs to be effectuated. And another part of this that we talked about, but we don't have a specific committee, is research. A lot of these things, the idea of doing research to help support the need or to find out what the lay of the land is. And our thought initially was to infuse that within each of these areas. There might be a research component, for example, for advocacy that lives there, or there might be a research component for civic education or one of the others. So that's another piece to this I just want to kind of mention. And I realize we're only 2/3 of the way through our committee. So Tim, I'll turn it back over to you for the others.
Well, no, it's been great to hear kind of where this does continue to go. And while this slide has been up, so most people I'm sure have been able to read the civic advocacy, civic policy, some of those things that Chuck even just, where he was leading this. How do we work within the existing structure to actually make change? And again, these things that are possibilities and suggestions do lend a little bit toward the educational piece to it, because that's where the Civic Education Task Force led. It's not the only places. We're happy to, again, work in this community to be able to put together where we want to be able to go if we need to make some sort of advocacy or policy pushes with any of this too. So that's at least our starting point of how we want to start bringing all this together. Your organizations, you as an individual, as we start working and just keep the momentum going. We've seen some great positive forward momentum over the last few years. And so this is just another way we are trying to build that together. And so, Chuck, this might have been kind of where you were going with this too, but the overall look, this goal, this purpose, this togetherness, and I like using the word community.
Yeah, and so the ultimate in vanity, right? There's a quote from me in our slideshow, so there we go. In case I forgot. But I think one of the things that we want to provide a structure for this to happen. So it's great when it happens organically, and we've been fortunate enough to be able to have relationships and partnerships and collaborations with many of you. And we know that there are opportunities for you to do that outside of us or whomever. But if there's an existing structure and network that we can all work towards, that's what we're trying to provide. And Tim's statement of a community, that's really true, a civics community, people coming together around this, who care about this and want to move and advance that in Indiana. And that's exciting. I'll say sort of on the nitty-gritty logistics side of things, we will have staff devoted to this, our civic staff. Isaac, who is on the call, will be involved. Tim, of course, will be involved. And we'll have other folks involved. Laura will be involved from our board and from our civic education committee. So we want to provide the structure and the resources from an organizational perspective and convening perspective. So from that standpoint, that's another aspect of this that we hope will be available, and that we have a lot of great things that come from it, and we have different ways that this. I know just even at our summit, there were many opportunities for people to talk to each other that hadn't talked about things before, and said, oh, wow, there's a great connection here. So we want to continue that on a more permanent basis. Also, just again, this is the beginning. We have a lot of more development work to do, but the idea of, okay, so where does this live? Is there a directory? Are there resources? All of that are things that we want to be able to work on. And as the sort of administrative host agency, if you will, have a presence online probably for the most part, and have a website devoted to that. Each of the members, we'd like to have a profile of you or your organization and at where your lane is, so that other members of the coalition can be able to look at that and leverage that as well, and look for partnerships and build those relationships. So all of those things are things that we want to build together with you. This isn't us saying, here's what it is and here's how it's going to be. It's really us coming to you and say, here's where we've started. Now let's work together to really actualize this in a way that makes sense for all of us, and find out what we can do together, because I know there's a lot of momentum, a lot of energy, and frankly, a lot of room for us to make advances. So that's sort of it from my perspective. Tim, I'll turn it back over to you if we wanted to get into the next actualization part.
Yeah, at this point, again, join us. Colton, if you wouldn't mind dropping that job form link again into the chat. That way everybody has it again. Let us know your interest. Join us in the committee. We're going to get these structured and trying to get these on the books and in the calendars and see how we can keep pushing this together. We want to know who's ready to start walking with us and actually get ready to do some good work. And again, the momentum going, there's momentum there. We are excited to offer this as another venue and another avenue to keep pushing civics forward. And so at this point, we've talked at you for about a half an hour, and we've had a few questions in the chat that I saw, but we'll kind of pause with this and at least give you our contact information as well. So I'm happy to there's our email addresses, questions about membership, question about the committees, questions about where we're going. Again, we're just starting the structure. We want to start bringing you involved and make this collaborative coalition to really start getting some work done. So I'll stop after this half an hour of talking at you to see if there are any questions that you guys have. Feel free either to unmute or drop in the chat, and we'll give you this opportunity here now.
Judge Tavitas, do you have something?
I do. Thank you for all the information. My question is, what is our greatest need? Or what is your greatest need?
As far as committees or just in general?
Big or small?
Okay.
It doesn't matter. Just, how can I help? I guess that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I'll speak for myself, and others can chime in. I think, we have identified 3 priority areas that I think it was one of those things. We could have 20 committees, depending on how specific you wanted to be, but we wanted to try to, from the administrator perspective, lump some things together and give some area. If this is an area that you and your organization care about, join the committee. If you want to join all of them, we love that. That would be great, and give us the benefit of your collective wisdom and all of those sorts of things. I would say also, there are areas that have been identified through the task force report that are just sort of waiting to be done. And I personally, there's a lot to work in civic education around this new 6th grade class. I think that's a priority just because of the timing. It is coming. It will be online January of 2024. There will be teachers who will be teaching it. Will they have the content knowledge? Will they have the resources? Will they have all of the tools that they need? That's what sort of drives me as a priority, is from our organization, and I know many of you in that area too. If you're coming to this from a different perspective, from a voting perspective or a civic engagement perspective, I'm sure there will be priorities that that you have identified and you will identify can be worked through that committee too. So we're kind of priming the pump, I guess, a little bit with the task force recommendations as a place to start. But our hope is that the committees themselves are going to help to generate the priority list. But if there's an area within those 3 that you think I'm more interested or passionate or aligns with our organizational mission in civic education, go there and help guide that priority determination. That's my perspective on it. I don't know, Laura, Dr. Hammock, or Tim, if you have anything else you wanted to add on that.
I think that's great. It's really kind of following what the membership is looking for, what this group of people that want to keep pushing civics. We've got a few roadmaps that have already been established, and putting that forward, that's what we're starting with. But we know it's not the only piece. So yes, this is going to be that collaborative piece of how we keep doing that. So.
And I would say too, if you have 20 priorities, maybe you're not going to get them all done, but prioritizing those goals, I think really we're looking for the committees to help us with, and the coalition as a whole, because there were a lot of to-dos on that task force list. Some of them we've actually accomplished. Some of them are definitely works in progress, and some of them we haven't really even started. So that's a starting point. And we're really optimistic that the committees and the coalition itself will help us to identify that. Let's see, Nathan, I see, hopefully that answered some of your question, Judge. Nathan, I see your hands up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say really quickly. So my name is Nathan Gotch. I'm the Indiana State Director for Business for America. And first of all, we're very excited to be part of this coalition. What we are trying to do sort of under this umbrella is engage with businesses across the state who have a vested interest in making sure that we have strong communities and we have engaged community members. So we are looking to help with the education piece, not just by connecting businesses with school systems, but also we have found that there are employees at businesses across the state who now are much more interested in learning about civics because they are invested in their communities. Maybe when they got their civics education, their senior year of high school in government, they weren't quite as, interested in this, but now they really are. And so we're coming up with resources, and we have our own alliance with businesses around the state, but we're really excited about being a part of this group, and just wanted to give you a sense of some of the things that we're working on in this field.
And let me just say a word too, and thank you, Nathan, for being here, and the work that, for those of you that were at the summit, the Business for America team and their partners were a panelist, and really I am excited about the opportunity to engage with the business community within this civics environment, because I think their voice carries so much weight throughout the state, and it's a voice that we haven't always harnessed in the best way. And so we're really fortunate in Indiana to have the presence of Business for America, and now Nathan on the ground being able to help infuse that business perspective into this too. And so I fully hope and expect and would love to again have the Business for America business network infused within these committees as well, and get their perspective, because I think that's an important voice that we're excited about having. So thank you, Nathan.
And I know there's been a few questions in the chat, so I'm hoping at least people that have asked along the way, they're getting those answers and everybody can see those, but I'm just trying to scroll through again to see if they've all been answered yet. So if I've missed something along that way, speak up again or something too, but I think those are being answered along the way.
I think one of the main things, let us know sort of contact information, because this is being built, it is being developed. There will be new developments, new resources. We intend to have a presence, a website. We intend to have a lot of different resources for you, and meetings, gatherings, convenings, all of that sort of thing, and even just letting each other know, what's your organization doing? Are there opportunities for others to engage with that who are in the coalition? Is there a Business for America convening of some kind that would benefit from having non-business people or whatever? So again, on that Venn diagram, that sort of second bucket with people talking to each other outside of necessarily coalition specific activities, we're really looking forward to that as well, and hoping to build that.
Can you, this Judy Singleton for Women for Change, can you send us a copy of your slide presentation?
Yeah, we'll get that available. We're recording, and then we'll have the PowerPoints available here. So give us a little bit after this and we'll have that out, or at least put on our website or something along those ways. So yeah.
Yeah, if you send us your email, this is our, send us your contact information on a jot form and we'll send this right back to you. Our first order of business.
Yep. Bonk, yeah.
Hey, just wanted to share an idea that one of my team members came up with, and I think could be an opportunity. There are so many organizations that care about civics and are making it a priority right now, even down to the Humanities Council of Indiana. So We think there's an opportunity here for all of us to think about a mediable moment. And, given how often, we'll be meeting, it's probably good to think about this, if we were to get this going this fall or potentially even 2024, to say, like, this is the year of civics in Indiana. Get the governor to make a statement, maybe a resolution in the legislature, and have as many organizations as possible aligned using similar media messaging, et cetera, do a press release, and going along with the education being rolled out to the sixth graders could be a way to make a bigger splash. You're doing so much great work here, and I think there's an opportunity even to take it up to the next level.
Yeah, is anybody aware of the birthday of the state of Indiana? What day of the year that is?
I think it's in the fall. I can't remember. We did was a bicentennial not too long ago, but I can't remember the exact date. But there might be opportunities around that, certainly.
So it's December 11th, 1816. And so I just wanted to throw that out there as maybe something we could target to do again for that kind of the public push, or to have a day where we can really shine a spotlight on this.
Right. I know many of us do things around Constitution Day and other
September,
other moments, right? And I know this is a great place to talk about what do you have going? How can we collaborate? How can we make it even better? We're doing some work with the Court of Appeals that we're really excited about around that. So yeah, that's wonderful. Any other thoughts, questions, contributions? We weren't sure exactly how much time this was going to be, but we wanted to give you an opportunity to give us feedback and sort of let us know. Yes, Yvonne.
So I have the beneficial background of having done We the People and benefiting in my classroom from all the wonderful things that our foundation has done in the past. And as an instructional coach and consultant now, I'm seeing where a lot of sixth grade teachers, I've led 3 professional developments, are starving for resources. And so I agree with everything you say about this being a priority. My question is, after attending the summit and seeing a small minority of teachers there that day, what are the plans to reach out to schools and to get as many civically minded teachers as possible involved with some of these goals? What are you doing to reach out to schools?
Yeah, I'll just give a little bit of thought to or response to that. One of the things, again, our organization, we're really focused on the sixth grade standard. It's an opportunity, and it's also, frankly, a real need. So we're working to develop a sort of class in a box, if you will, to provide those resources to the teachers. But we very much want educators and teachers to be involved with this coalition and to help to support this. One of the things, it would be great to have teachers tell us what resources they are looking for. And so having outreach through Indiana Council on Social Studies and various other organizations like that. Hopefully, I think somebody I know, where are you? Some folks from there are on the call. So those partner organizations that directly reach the teachers. We also work with the Principals Association, and there are others I know, and there's of course the DOE. So reaching out to teachers is certainly a focus of ours, and I think infusing some of the committee work around that, including them too. That'd be my initial response. And Tim, or again, Dr. Hammock, if you want to weigh in on any of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where I would go. It's trying to figure out that collaboration piece. How do we keep working with, as Chuck mentioned, ICSS, and there's higher ed people on this call. I've people from, I've seen at least, I'm sorry, I'm going to miss Purdue and Indiana State. And, we've got that connection. Dr. Hammock is a superintendent and has the connections with a lot of the administration, and we've got a network that we think we're building. And so again, this is all part of what we're hoping to do with this coalition. Really continue these discussions, really find that need and find that push forward in a lot of things to make it useful, make it impactful. And that's where we're going to keep pushing with this. Now that we are building this community, this coalition, and again, I keep using that phrase, harness all of our powers and talents and everything this way to really make that impact.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Another, I guess, driver of this, and again, this is not new, but our network and relationships that all of us at Bar Foundation and many others have developed with policymakers and elected officials. I think we can collectively work to leverage those and really build some, let's say credibility, but really build a collective voice that can resonate with those folks and in those areas as well too. And again, this is an area where that Venn diagram I think is really important. There will be areas that might not be necessarily appropriate or the best use of the coalition, but individuals, organizations can work on them either together or outside of the coalition individually, and that's great. That's wonderful. But I think this is a voice, a collective voice, a collective space that we can bring to bear that we really haven't had before in an organized way. So there may be opportunities or situations where it's not appropriate for this group to engage, but I think there are so many where it is that it can be a really helpful thing. And someone mentioned logo. Yes. Funny you should mention that. It wasn't quite ready to roll out the ideas that we were having, but we didn't quite make the deadline, but it is, we're working on coming up with some branding, the idea that this is a coalition. It exists as, you know, a logo and a brand that we can all use and sort of align ourselves with. So it is coming, and thank you for that note, Vaughn.
Any other thoughts, questions? Yeah, Judge, I see your hand.
So has there been any thought about getting all three branches of government together at some function to promote this, to advertise this? Is there, to me, that is what seems to be really important, is that you have all three branches of government working towards the same goal.
Yeah, I love the idea. We have had pieces. Obviously, our relationship with the judiciary is extremely strong. We've had such deep support from the lieutenant governor and the executive branch, of course, and other the Department of Education. It is interesting because I think some of these ideas that have emerged even in this discussion, and of course the legislative branch passed some of these laws to make this happen. So absolutely, and I think there's a way maybe if we can harness those things together, as was talked about sort of in a publicity way, but also, you know, a unified, that's the other thing too, I do want to mention a bit. This is hopefully stressing the commonalities, not the divisions that can exist in some of these areas. And so that's, I think, an important part, that if we can get commonality with organizations and we can get commonality with entities of government and again, nonpartisan, all of those things, I think there's a lot there, but that's where we want to provide the focus and provide the energy and those sorts of efforts to make sure that we're doing it in a collaborative, nonpartisan sort of way and multi-branch. I mean, I think that's great. And we're taking notes, we're recording this, so we're going to be having some follow-ups already on how we move forward and where that lives in what committee. But I think those are great, you know, and it's sort of a media outreach. Is that a committee we need, or is that infused into one of these? All of these things, wonderful ideas. Other thoughts, input? And again, we'll have plenty of opportunities for all of that because this is really just the beginning, the starting gun, if you will, for our endeavor. Dr. Hammett,
Go ahead, sorry.
Dr. Hammett, could you have any words or closing that you wanted to add or anything?
No, I genuinely appreciate the conversation. And I think what's so compelling about the time today is the fact that the energy is spirited and that there are lots of ideas that are flowing already. So when we can capture all of these energies in a, sort of operationalized way through the work of these committees, I'm just super excited to think about where we'll be a year from now when we can see that we've really moved the dial on some of these indexes for civic health and genuine wellness across our state. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, and so this is not the end. Obviously, this is a beginning, and so we're real excited for that. The job form was in the chat. Give us your contact information, give us your interest and all that. We're going to take that. We're going to figure out who wants to be a part of what, how we engage it all. That's going to be our next project with this, and actually put together this groups, get some dates on calendars, and bring some people together to actually start advancing some work with that too. So that's where we plan to take it from here. Stay engaged with us, keep us informed of your interests and your involvement, and we're going to make sure we bring it all together.
Thanks again for your continued partnership and more to come. We look forward to it. And again, please do, this is a collaborative effort. We don't have all the answers. We're looking to us collectively to provide the path and vision going forward. So please do reach out, and we will be reaching out to all of you who give us your contact information, which is a positive thing, I think, and not a bad thing. So feel free to do the same. We're always open and looking forward to working with you all. So thank you again for your time today and into the future.